Hansen, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Pretty good, actually. Pretty good, actually. Now, you have an incredible background. You have been involved in all sorts of different work over the years and have really made some things happen. Talk to us a little bit about your background here, and then we'll get started.
Okay. Am I live now?
Yep, we're live. We're live, pal. We're live.
Okay. Yes, I am not a victim of childhood abuse anymore. I'm a warrior. I'm a strong survivor. I have moved to Thriver, to being courageous, to even to come on your show and be on so many shows. I've had the media calling my house every week, 2 or 3 times a week. I have shows, and I'm just really blessed to be on your show today, James. So thank you for inviting me on your show. And you want a little bit of my story?
Yes, let's talk a little bit about this because you are the Survivors Against Violence ambassador for New England. Talk to us a little bit about this.
Okay, well, I was made the ambassador in New England, all over Massachusetts, with Eileen Dawn, who is Miss Texas in Houston, and she has done two phenomenal shows with me. One she did, one she did with teens and dating violence, and that's coming up in August. The other one is an interview with her, and she has her own show, uh, Miss Texas Eileen Dawn. And so she made me an ambassador all over New England. And the picture that I don't know if you have it to put on the screen, but it's a phenomenal picture of me. This is a picture of
Yep, yep.
yeah. And my story is woven with love and hate. And I've never said that before on a show, but it just came to me. I had a very loving, strong um, Christian home with a mom and dad that absolutely adored me, loved me, took care of me, protected me. I hear a little bit of an echo.
You're good. You're good. You're good. It's
Okay,
just Skype. It's technology.
okay.
It's fine. Let's keep going here. We have got Barbara Joy Hansen with us today. She joins us live here on our big broadcast. We are live on JiggyJaguar.com, also iHeartRadio today, 50 plus AM FM stations across the country and around the world, including our good friends at KFRK in Denver. And so you have been involved in this organization for a heck of a long time. How did you get involved in this organization?
As a result of my childhood incest with my grandfather, who molested my cousins, two female cousins, and my mother was a victim. She didn't tell, she couldn't tell. I had no words at age 2 to 8 to tell her. And the PTSD shut us both down. Post-traumatic stress disorder is like amnesia, which I don't think a lot of people understand. It's the trauma comes down in your brain, and the more trauma you go through, the deeper it goes. And my uncle was a pedophile. My grandfather was a pedophile. He took me out for rides in his car and uncovered himself and made me touch him. And I
Mm.
was screaming and wanting to jump out of the car. He came in my bath time, and
Mm.
I cried in my bed at night, and I couldn't tell anybody, but I know God heard my pleas and my cries. And at age 8, I shut down from him, and I never said hello or goodbye to him ever again.
Wow.
And I thought, isn't somebody going to make me hug Grandpa? But my mother, knowing maybe, but having the post-traumatic stress so deep in her, couldn't help me or couldn't, talk to me about it. So I was frozen in silence, and so was she. It creates invisible wounds, PTSD does, around any terrifying crime. It can be an accident, your child gets hit, your child gets burned, or It goes deeper and deeper, crippling. And it's like the soldiers in the war, James. I had sleep disorders, screaming in the night, nightmares, panic attacks. I was disoriented. One time my mother found me fumbling in the closet. Maybe I thought it was the bathroom. So ignorance, all kinds of things I suffered, and I couldn't tell anybody. So it creates shame and blame. And I want to tell what shame says. Shame says I did something wrong. I stole money out of my mother's purse one time, and she caught me, and we knelt down. She was a pastor's wife, and we prayed together and took it to God. She didn't yell at me, and I didn't have that kind of a mother. She was a wonderful, wonderful mom. And so shame says I did a bad thing. Blame says I am the bad person. Shame says I did something wrong. Blame says something's wrong with me. And you take it in, you soak it in. For years, I did. For 38 years, I couldn't tell. So it became a mission for me and an ongoing full-time purpose and passion when I realized how much I had experienced and how much I'd gone through. At age 8, I shut down from him, my grandfather, and then at age 11, I went to a youth camp in New York State where the clergy was the youth pastor, 27 years old, and I was an innocent child, already violated, and then he came on to me. He was 27, I was 11. He came back the next summer at age 12, I was, and did it to me and other pastors' daughters at this camp. And I didn't tell anybody until I told my best friend that I grew up there with many years later, and she was violated. So I'd like to tell a little bit about how I was supported by my denomination, the Christian and Missionary Alliance denomination. And in 1999, I exposed it. In 1998, the evil was exposed by me going back to the campground and briefly connecting with one of my best friends. She hadn't been back to the campground for 27 years, and I hadn't seen her, and she just got out of a drug rehab. She was a pastor's daughter, a pastor's wife, and she and I connected deeply at this camp. And we started weeping and heaving and sobbing together because I told her his name as soon as I knew she was affected by it. She didn't have to tell me. And so we connected. She went back home to Ohio, where her pastor's wife had been one of the camp directors at this camp. And she told my friend, you need to call her, whoever it is. Do you know any other victims? And she said yes. And they need to send their story into headquarters, which is in Colorado Springs. So the sin was exposed to the Christian Missionary Alliance. They set up a committee for me with a restoration committee. They set up a committee of discipline for the youth pastor who was sent to the Bahamas to further do youth ministry. So there's victims in the Bahamas as well, and they get sent off. And I believe it was a cover-up because the alliance was told by my best friend that I talked to. She told the camp director, and he's like, oh, he did that, it's sin, whatever. And it was never dealt with. And then I want to tell you, in 1997, 1 year prior to me exposing it in 1998 with my friend, and then writing up my story and sending it to the committee, and that was the hardest thing to do, was sit in the dining room and try to remember, but everything came back. It just flooded back. So 1997 in Gabon, Guinea, South Africa, at the Mama Alliance Academy with this denomination 1 year earlier than me exposing it. In the boarding school there, missionary children were separated from their parents. The parents chose to give the gospel out to people in Africa. And back in the day, they flew these little kids to the Mama Alliance Academy, which was in the middle of the jungle. They had no cell phones, no emails, no communication with their moms or dads. And those children were sacrificed for the sake of the gospel. Now, I'm a strong Christian. I'm a pastor's daughter. I understand, my faith is strong, but I could never do that, send my kids away when they're 4, 5, 6. Some brothers and sisters went and they weren't together at the camp at this Alliance Academy. And I don't know how many teachers they had there, but all the adults, a lot of the adults that were teachers sacrificed those kids by not only sexual abuse. One teacher went to Mexico to learn to be a nurse, to pull teeth, and tied the kids' hands behind their backs and pulled the teeth out without Novocaine. There was no prevention. So when these missionary kids that were sent there became adults like me in their 30s, they left the church. They became gay. They became cross-dressers. They don't want anything to do with the gospel. There was an independent council or investigation set up, and one of the people on the investigation, one of the clergy, said, "What would this cost our denomination? Do these adult children need therapy? Are there going to be lawsuits? Are we going to be embarrassed?" No, one of them said, "No, we really need to do the right thing. There needs to be healing, forgiveness, restoration." And a safe place was put together in a workbook for churches. And then the ball started rolling, now with me facing the accused, the clergy, in 1999. I was flown to Florida with 3 of my best friends, one at a time. I'm telling you, James, it was the hardest thing I ever did, to walk in that room and see this man that had done this to me so long ago.
Yeah.
I had such panic attacks, nightmares. I was in the room with him and I talked so softly. I couldn't understand why I was talking softly. There were 8 clergy in the room. There was a psychologist next to me and the sex offender on the right. And I realized, Barb, you need to face him. You need to face the accused. And my voice got stronger. I was already starting to teach my support group, Beauty Out of Ashes, with addicts, with women, and also some of my biker friends. And I took a photograph of me as an 11-year-old child, very deeply wounded. I felt like an outcast. I felt like an underdog. And when I showed him a picture of me, my husband blew the picture up. This is what the picture looks like in my book. The
Wow.
wounded little child. I'm anorexic. I'm shut down. This is my book, Listen to the Cry of the Child, The Deafening Silence of Sexual Abuse. You can get copies from us quicker than going to Barnes and Nobles. And it helps with my ministry. It helps with sex trafficking. I wrote all about what I went through with the denomination in my book, along with my entire life story. And I talked to this sex offender clergy. I said, I don't know why you hurt me so bad that you had to do what you did. And he said, well, and he was in complete denial up until that point. He said, I don't know if you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I said, forgive you? I've already done that. Before I came here to face you, I forgave you. But you need to run into recovery. You need to get right with God, right with everybody that you've harmed. You need to face everybody that you've hurt, and from campground to campground to campground. Because I said, do you know that sex offenders molest 150 to 350 children per perpetrator? That's in Sports Illustrated, coaches abusing children that they coach. And you know, in the media now, with the coaches that are coming forward and all that's coming out with the sex offenders and trafficking and everything. So 7 weeks later, after I faced this clergy, and I did forgive him, and I told him he needs to admit his guilt, which I don't know if he ever did. That's between him and God, and the clergy said he didn't. He fell down the stairs and broke his back and died 7 weeks after I forgave him, after I faced him.
Wow. That is impeccable. We have got a great guest with us today. She joins us live here on our big broadcast. So, your book, what's been some different reviews you've gotten on the book so far, my friend?
It's on the bestseller list. I ordered 5,000 copies of it because I knew it was way bigger than me when I wrote it. It has a picture of me on the cover with a wounded little girl. And it is a book that you can't put down. It's a non-stop read. I had my youngest son, who's an art teacher, design the cover of the book, and there's a garbage heap on the cover. And 3 nights in a row, God woke me up, and the impression of the garbage heap, I thought, garbage? My life's not garbage. Why garbage? And in God's still small voice, he said, Barb, your life's been tossed like that rag doll that's screaming in the middle of the book, like the toy airplane, like the books that thrown out. But the flower is blossoming and blooming. That's you. The rose, yes, there's thorns in our life. There's things that we all go through. There are circumstances we go through. And so he illustrated my entire book. It's a beautifully illustrated book. It's only $20 with shipping and handling. You can get a copy at 508-473-1280 is our home phone, or go on my website, listentothecry.org.
Well, this is definitely a fantastic segment today. I appreciate you making as much time as you did for us. I definitely want to have you back because you've got an incredible story, and we simply just ran out of time, my friend. But thank you for doing this.
I have so much to share with you.
Yes, we definitely have to have you back. I will be in touch, and maybe we can do that in the next couple weeks, my friend. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much, James. Have a blessed day.
Yes, you too. Thank you, my friend.
Remember, God brings beauty out of ashes and a garment